one way of looking at climate change is, well, in order to address climate change, what we have to do is to build a very complex framework, the purpose of which is going to be to facilitate and accelerate actions at all different levels of governance. Now, the second choice that we have available to us, well, that's a very different choice, because that is a choice that looks at transforming this world to not only make it very inhabitable, but to actually make it very exciting, extremely exciting. Transportation. Well, you know that electric vehicles are on the up and coming, right? I've seen quite a few electric vehicles. I'm the proud driver of a Prius, which is a hybrid. And yesterday, we drove in a fully electric vehicle, which was quite a fun experience. And I've seen quite a few electric vehicles here on the streets in California. Now, it's not just California, it's certainly Europe. And in New York, Mayor Bloomberg has already announced that by 2019, 20% of the parking spaces in New York City are going to have individual recharging stations, because he knows that that's at least the number of electric vehicles that there are going to be in New York.
And I see something here that I've never seen before in my life. For the first time, we have vehicle charging stations for electric vehicles, and lo and behold, no one's plugged in. Out of all the cars that are here, not a single car is plugged in to the electric vehicle charging station. So here's what they look like. This is what they want to put all over California, because they want you using electric vehicles. And look, you have to pay to charge. Isn't that nice? How convenient. They're actually making you pay to charge with a credit card. So if they force you into these vehicles, they will force you into a cashless society by making you use a credit card to pay for your electric vehicle charge.
So in the transport sector, incremental change going on. But now think the world transformed in the transportation sector. What would that look like? Well, that would look like driverless cars communicating with each other in order to decide on their own what route to take and at what time in order to get you to where you want to go, but maximizing the roadway capacity and the fuel being used for the vehicle. Entirely possible.
Here's David Lazarus.
Just feel like I'm getting dumber and dumber. Hey, when I'm not drinking charcoal, I'm thinking about the economic effect of self-driving cars. What am I talking about? I'll tell you how many billions are at stake coming up next. But McKinsey said there's a big economic plus as well, and that's because when we're not driving, what will we be doing? We'll be shopping. Yeah, that's exactly what this report says. That instead of looking at the road and keeping our eye on the traffic around us, we'll be looking at our iPads and our tablets and shopping, buying things on the internet.
Doing any of that because I have too many control issues to allow a car to drive me around without a driver.
No, but there's a generation of people that haven't been born yet.
Yes.
For them, it'll be nothing. A generation of people that haven't been born yet.
Yes.
For them, it'll be nothing.
That's
just
true.
Like our kids today, all this stuff is like, you know.
That's true. That's a good point.
You know.
I'm going to have to think about this the next time I'm in my self-driving car doing some shopping.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or becoming more and more dumb on your phone.
Buildings. Ah, yes, buildings are very important. 70% of global greenhouse gas emissions comes from cities. 80% of the world's population lives in cities. So where do we really need to look at bringing down emissions? Cities. What's in cities? Buildings. Homes and buildings. So we know already that green buildings, the LEED certified buildings, are already the buildings of choice, right? Because they just wear better. They're actually, even though they have a premium price, they actually are very much in demand by those who are buying buildings and occupying buildings. And we know that these buildings already have LED lighting, and some of them even have what they call smart thermostats, which actually learn your practices, your heating and lighting practices, and then help you choose when do you actually consume the energy in order to bring down your electric bill. So all of that is already there. But now consider buildings in a transformed world. Well, buildings in a transformed world would be buildings in which you no longer have to bring electricity in. We basically think of a building, as though it were a country. We are importing electricity into our buildings. We're buying electricity into the buildings. And we bring food that we need into the building and we transport it. Now consider a transformed world in which each building would actually produce all the electricity that it needs, because it would have all of these flat surfaces with all kinds of panels that produce electricity. In fact, it might even produce more electricity than it needs and sell back into the central system. Consider buildings that would actually capture as much water as they need for the food that is being produced on the roof and on terraces of the building. I already saw it in Singapore. So what about a transformed world in which we would actually plant cities instead of building them? Because that's the way we would think about cities, living organisms that we are going to plant and plan instead of just building them with cement. That would be a transformed world.
We're a proponent for us planning for the future. We're a proponent for us coordinating infrastructure with how we're going to grow. In a great nation like ours, you can't let people do what they want. It has to be coordinated.
Consider buildings that would actually capture as much water as they need for the food that is being produced on the roof and on terraces of the building. And what are the benefits of door number 2? Well, the benefits are, obviously, we avoid the catastrophic rise in temperatures that we do not even want to experience. We have increased food security, increased food security, increased energy security, increased water security. We would have developed a low-carbon growth model that actually contributes to economic stability, that improves public health and happiness, by the way, contributes to job creation in completely new sectors, and keeps natural resources, safeguards natural resources for future generations instead of gobbling up everything that we have now.
I'd like to protect as much of the land as we possibly can.
Because there are future generations to come. So what is there not to like about that world, I ask you? It is the fabulous world that we should be heading for. Now, you'll probably ask, so you work for the UN, so what the heck is going on at the global level in order to usher in that, future that we want? Well, let me tell you quickly, and then we can go into some discussion later if you want. what is being done to address climate change? Because this future that we're talking about is basically the successful address of climate change. If we successfully address climate change, that's the future that we're looking at, which is actually a pretty cool future.
2050, a long green period for sustainable thinking and actions. Mega metropolises are centers of progress and pillars of global cooperation. But global urbanization has its downsides. Rural areas are left behind. Thanks to innovative and more efficient technologies, transport is more sustainable and much faster for humans and for goods. The world has reinvented itself. We enjoy unlimited interaction and global cooperation. But could things turn out differently?